Stop scrolling for a second, because what happened in Indiana was not just a win, not just a hot shooting night, and definitely not just another regular season box score. This was the kind of performance that changes the temperature of a league. Hours after Caitlin Clark was announced as the cover athlete for the NBA 2K27 Deluxe Edition, she walked onto the floor and helped deliver a 123-88 demolition of the Connecticut Sun. And when the smoke cleared, it felt like the entire WNBA had just been put on notice. Newsroom 2K ESPN. But here's the part nobody saw coming: this game didn't just become a celebration. It became a statement. The kind of statement that starts with cheers, turns into tension, and ends with one team looking unstoppable while the other walks away wondering what just hit them. So stay with me, because the deeper we go into this night, the more unbelievable it gets. And before we get into the full breakdown, hit subscribe and turn on notifications, because if you love basketball drama, real momentum shifts, and the moments that feel bigger than one game, this is exactly where you want to be. A night that already felt bigger than basketball. Before the opening tip, the energy was already different. This wasn't one of those ordinary pre-game atmospheres where the crowd is just waiting to see if the home team can squeak out a win. This felt like an event. A moment. A night where something larger than the schedule was hanging in the air. Because just hours earlier, 2K officially announced Caitlin Clark as the NBA 2K27 Deluxe Edition cover athlete. Even more significant, Clark said she was proud to be the first WNBA player on her own global cover, which instantly turned the announcement into more than a marketing story. It became another milestone for women's basketball on a worldwide stage. Newsroom 2K. Think about what that means. For years, fans have argued about visibility, respect, mainstream recognition, and whether women's basketball would truly be presented at the center of the sport instead of on the side of it. Then suddenly, on one of the biggest gaming platforms in the world, there she was. Front and center. Not as an add-on. Not as a side feature. Not as a token gesture. On her own global cover. That changes the emotional stakes of the game before the game even begins. Because once a moment like that happens, every camera feels closer. Every possession feels louder. Every shot feels like it carries extra weight. The crowd knows it. The players know it. The opponent definitely knows it. And if you are Connecticut walking into that environment, you understand immediately that you are not just playing Indiana. You are walking into somebody else's headline. And some teams shrink in a moment like that. Indiana didn't. The first 4.5 minutes told the whole story. If Connecticut hoped the pre-game spotlight might distract Clark, that idea was dead almost immediately. Clark came out firing so fast it felt like the game skipped the warm-up and went straight to chaos. According to ESPN's recap, she scored 11 points in the first 4.5 minutes and hit all 4 of her shots, including 3 three-pointers. Indiana jumped to a 17-11 lead, and just like that, the tone of the night was set. ESPN. That's what made this so terrifying for the Sun. There was no hesitation. No overthinking. No sense that Clark was trying to force a perfect, special night performance. She didn't look burdened by the attention. She looked powered by it. Every great star has that rare quality where pressure doesn't feel like pressure to them. It feels like permission. Permission to attack. Permission to take over. Permission to become even more aggressive than usual. And that's exactly what this looked like. You could feel the building realize, almost in real time, that Clark wasn't interested in simply being the center of the story. She wanted to control the ending too. But the truly dangerous part for Connecticut wasn't just Clark scoring. It was the way Indiana's offense started breathing through her. The pace, the spacing, the confidence, the movement, everything sharpened. The Fever weren't playing like a team hoping their star could save them. They were playing like a team that knew the opponent had no answer for what was coming next. That's a different kind of fear. Because when a superstar is hot, you still tell yourself maybe it cools off. When the entire machine starts humming around that superstar, you realize you might be in for a very long night. Then the avalanche started. By the end of the first quarter, Indiana led 36-26. 36 points in one quarter. That alone would have been a warning sign. But it turned out to be just the opening wave. Clark had 21 points by halftime. Indiana led 70-46 at the break. And that 70-point first half was the biggest half in franchise history. ESPN. 70. In one half. That is not just playing well. That is one team imposing its identity so completely that the game starts to feel tilted. The kind of half where every defensive adjustment seems half a step late, every closeout feels desperate, and every possession carries this awful sense that the next punch is already on the way. And that's what makes a blowout emotionally brutal. It's not just the scoreboard. It's the waiting. Waiting for the run that never comes. Waiting for the stop that never comes. Waiting for the miss that never comes. Waiting for some sign that momentum is shifting back in your favor. But Indiana never gave Connecticut that comfort. They kept running. They kept spacing the floor. They kept moving the ball. They kept attacking before the defense could settle. And every time Connecticut needed a stabilizing stretch, the Fever found another answer. This is where a lot of people misunderstand dominant offensive nights. They think it's only about somebody getting hot from deep. But the most demoralizing games are the ones where the damage comes from everywhere. A transition push here. A kick-out three there. A backdoor cut. A drive and dish. A post finish. A secondary break. A pass that arrives half a second before the defense rotates. That's not randomness. That's control. And Indiana had all of it. If you're enjoying this breakdown so far, subscribe right now, because the wildest part of this game wasn't just how fast Indiana scored. It was how the emotion in the arena shifted from celebration, to confrontation, to complete domination. The Big Three didn't just show up, they buried Connecticut. As spectacular as Clark was, this game became unforgettable because Indiana's core hit together. That is what turned a big night into a nightmare. Clark finished with 27 points and 11 assists in just 27 minutes. Kelsey Mitchell added 23 points. Aliyah Boston scored 22 points, and according to USA Today, it was the third time this season that Indiana's Big Three of Clark, Mitchell, and Boston all scored 20 or more in the same game, something no other trio in the league had done even once at that point. ESPN USA Today. That matters, because it changes the conversation from, how good is Caitlin Clark, to, what are you supposed to do with all of this? That is the question contenders create. You can scheme for one star. You can trap one star. You can get physical with one star. You can sell out to disrupt one star. But when Clark is bending the defense, Mitchell is cashing in on the perimeter, and Boston is punishing you inside, what exactly is your escape route? There isn't one. That's what Connecticut ran into. Mitchell's scoring gives Indiana a killer beside Clark, someone who can punish any defensive overreaction. Boston gives them interior force, balance, and efficiency. She doesn't just finish plays, she steadies them. So when Clark speeds the game up and Mitchell stretches it wide, Boston gives it weight. That combination is exhausting to guard because it forces you to defend every layer of the floor. And on this night, the Fever didn't just flash that formula. They weaponized it. It felt like every time Connecticut tried to solve one problem, two more appeared. Shade too hard toward Clark, and Mitchell makes you pay. Stay home on the shooters, and Boston eats inside. Collapse on the paint, and Indiana sprays the ball back out. Try to play faster, and Indiana outruns you. Try to slow it down, and Indiana still scores in the half court. That is how a team starts looking dangerous beyond one game. Not exciting. Dangerous. The tension made it even louder. Now here's where the game stopped feeling like a celebration and started feeling personal. As the score ballooned, the emotion rose with it. Late in the third quarter, Clark and Connecticut's Sonia Rivers were assessed offsetting technical fouls after a verbal exchange. It was Clark's 7th technical foul of the season, leaving her one away from an automatic one-game suspension. ESPN USA Today. And moments like that matter in a script like this, because they tell you the game was not emotionally neutral. This wasn't Indiana quietly piling up points while everybody smiled politely. This was a game with heat in it. Frustration in it. Pride in it. A game where the scoreboard kept growing, but the feelings on the floor were getting sharper too. That's why the atmosphere felt so combustible. Because when one team is rolling and the other team can feel control slipping away, every little exchange starts to mean more. A hard contest means more. A stare means more. A whistle means more. Suddenly, the game is not just about execution. It's about emotional survival. About who stays composed and who starts unraveling. And Indiana, for all the intensity of the moment, never lost the bigger picture. They kept playing. That's the detail I keep coming back to. In emotional games, some teams get dragged out of their rhythm by the temperature. Indiana used the temperature as fuel. They didn't abandon the offense. They didn't go reckless. They didn't stop moving the ball and turn the night into chaos. They kept scoring. That is such a killer trait. Because it tells the rest of the league that even when the emotions spike, even when the game gets chippy, even when the spotlight is blinding and the tension is obvious, Indiana can still hold on to the thread of who they are. And teams that can do that in July become terrifying in the games that matter later. The numbers make it even more ruthless. Sometimes the eye test tells you a team looked unstoppable. Then the numbers show you it was even worse than it felt. Indiana shot 62% from the field and went 11 for 22 from 3. The Fever's 123 points were a franchise record. ESPN also noted it was the third highest scoring game in WNBA history without overtime. ESPN. That is absurd. Because those numbers don't just describe efficiency. They describe a total breakdown in the opponent's ability to disrupt rhythm. Indiana wasn't scraping together points on second chances and chaos. They were scoring cleanly. Confidently. Repeatedly. Like a team that knew exactly where it wanted to get and had the personnel to get there over and over again. And when you combine those team numbers with Clark's line, 27 points, 11 assists, 5 made threes, all in just 27 minutes, the picture gets even scarier. ESPN. Because 27 minutes is the part that should make every opponent uncomfortable. She didn't need the full night. She didn't need to grind to get there. She didn't need overtime, hero ball, or a miracle fourth quarter. The damage was already done. That's the difference between a star having a big game and a star controlling a demolition. One feels dramatic. The other feels inevitable. And on this night, Clark felt inevitable. This was about more than one highlight. The easiest thing to do after a game like this is reduce it to a few viral clips. A logo 3. A flashy pass. A heated exchange. A box score people repost all night. But that would undersell what really happened. What made this performance resonate was not one shot or one moment. It was the emotional arc of the night. The timing. The context. The symbolism. The fact that a player spent the day being elevated onto a global platform and then spent the night backing it up in front of everybody. That matters in sports. Because every star gets attention. Not every star survives the weight of it. And not every star turns that weight into force. Clark did. And Indiana did. That's why this didn't feel like empty hype. The coverage, the announcement, the noise, all of it could have become a distraction. Instead, it became a stage, and Indiana played like they were ready for it. There's something deeply unsettling about a team that seems to get stronger when the lights get hotter. That kind of team doesn't just win games. It changes expectations. Suddenly people stop asking whether they can compete with the best teams and start asking who wants to deal with them in a high-stakes series. That is a huge shift. And it's why a random-looking July score can carry so much weight. Because sometimes one night reveals what a team is becoming before the standings fully tell the story. The message the league had to hear. So what was the message? Simple. Indiana is no longer just interesting. Indiana is a problem. Not because of one star alone, even though Clark was brilliant. Not because of one emotional night, even though the atmosphere was huge. And not because one opponent had a bad outing, even though Connecticut got overwhelmed. Indiana is a problem because their ceiling looks bigger when the moment gets bigger. That's the part contenders hate. Some teams look great in calm waters and shaky in storms. Indiana looked like the storm helped them find another gear. Clark's performance was the headline, and rightfully so. The 2K27 cover announcement made the entire day feel historic. Her line made the night feel emphatic. But the deeper takeaway is that the Fever looked connected, dangerous, and increasingly comfortable with attention. That combination can take you a long way. When you have a guard who can warp the floor, a scorer like Mitchell who can punish the openings, and an interior force like Boston who gives you balance and toughness, you stop being a nice story and start becoming a threat people circle on the calendar. And if they keep producing offensive nights like this, with this pace, this confidence, and this edge, then the road ahead for the rest of the league is going to get very uncomfortable. The ending nobody in Connecticut wanted. By the final buzzer, the score read 123-88. And that number didn't just represent a loss. It represented a takeover. The Fever had set a franchise scoring record. They had posted the biggest first half in franchise history. Clark had delivered 27 points and 11 assists. Mitchell and Boston had joined her above 20. The team had shot 62%. The building had gone from celebration to eruption. And the opponent had been swallowed whole by the pace and pressure of it all. ESPN USA Today. That's why this game is going to stick. Because it gave fans everything they remember, a milestone, a superstar, real tension, big-time production, and a final score so lopsided it almost doesn't look real. And maybe that's the most unforgettable part. On the same day the basketball world got another reminder of Caitlin Clark's global reach, the Connecticut Sun got a far more immediate reminder of something else. Attention is one thing. Answering it is another. And Indiana answered it with a sledgehammer. If you made it all the way to the end, subscribe now and drop your take in the comments. Was this just a massive regular season win, or was this the night the Fever started looking like something much bigger? Because if this is a preview of what Indiana can be when emotion, spotlight, and execution all collide at once, then the rest of the league has every reason to be nervous.